That is, as far as they can recall, a recreation of the menorah. Count how many candles he got on there. 7. Yeah. Because the number 7, one evening, remind me, and I'll tell you all about the number 7. It plays a tremendous part in biblical, because all the numbers have spiritual meanings. Because the Lord God introduced numeracy in Genesis chapter 1 when he numbered the days of the week. So numbers don't come from Pythagoras or some of the early mathematicians. It comes from the Lord. So all numbers have spiritual meanings as well as natural meanings. It says here that the golden menorah you see there was recreated for the first time since the destruction of the Second Temple, according to the research conducted by the Temple Institute. So that's something of great importance. See, down below there are old cottages, and I remember walking through these cottages, old Jewish cottages, and suddenly I came across the Western Wall, and I couldn't believe it. You know, you didn't know it was there until you've gone through these cottages. They've all been removed over the years to leave you with what you're going to see in the morning. There's none of those cottages remain. Okay.
Peter? Come and show you, mate. Come and show. Thank you very much.
Can we stand over here? Now I brought you this way because you won't get a better perspective of the temple site in the Western Wall that was erected in 684 AD, the Mosque of Omar, the first Islam mosque. Now that is what the prophets referred to as the abomination of desolation. That's the Al-Aqsa, where the Muslims go to worship today. Yes, don't miss this, Pete, because you won't have it again. That's the Mosque of Omar, built in 684 AD, that I preach about from Daniel chapter 12. That is the Al-Aqsa Mosque there, where they worship today. That is on the temple site where the Temple of Solomon stood. Is that correct?
So they don't worship in the other mosque?
No, that's for general visitors like us. We can go there. You see the covered in section there, leading up from the lower ground to the temple site. That is where we shall walk up. But first of all, we're going over to the Western Wall. That is the Western Wall there, which was called once the Wailing Wall. It's the Western Wall, okay. And we'll leave you there in a bit for 3/4 of an hour to wander around. Right. Now, I told you about the Dung Gate. That's down here to the right. So normally I would have brought you in there, but I thought it was good for you to come through the Jewish quarter and see what you've seen already. Right, okay. But you can see how busy it is. Now here were all the old cottages where the Jews lived. They've all gone now. But you get a glimpse of the stonework with the buildings behind you here. That's Jerusalem stone, it's called. Now you'll always recognise the Islam prayer towers, and they've got the crest, the moon crest on the top. And the reason for the moon crest is because the Islam religion roots itself in Ishmael. Now Ishmael was the firstborn son of Abraham. Ishmael was born when Abraham was 86 years of age. Isaac was born when Abraham was 100 years of age. So in other words, when Isaac was born, Ishmael was 14 years of age. Have we got that? And so the Islam religion is based on the firstborn, which was Ishmael. But God says very clearly in Genesis, I think it's chapter 6 and 7, very clearly that the covenant will come through Isaac and not through Ishmael. But God did have favour on Ishmael, and although what happened was that Sarah became jealous of Ishmael and Agar, who was the Egyptian mother, and she was expelled into the wilderness. Okay. Right, have we got that clear now? So we're now going to go eventually onto the temple site. We're going to go in the Mosque of Omar, okay, and then we're going to go down to the Pool of Bethesda. Now these are the diggings on the southern edge of the holy site, the temple site as we call it. The furthest pinnacle, which you can't see here, is called the pinnacle of the temple, where Satan took Jesus and said, cast yourself from here and the angels will look after you and keep you. But we'll see that when we go around the other side on the Mount of Olives. That is the Mount of Olives. It's called the Mount of Olives because it was full of olive trees. Now there's something unique about the olive tree. It never dies. It will die off down to the roots and then will come back up again. And so some of the ancient olive trees in the Garden of Gethsemane could date back hundreds of years. But they're always doing digs down there, archaeological digs. But the old Romans stonework are the big stones like that, followed by the Solomon stones. But you will see them very, very clearly in the. You'll see them very clearly when we take you onto the. Right, so we're going down the steps now. Saudi Arabia. what they always does, eh?
Right, when are we meeting up? Have we started already? We haven't met
This is our meeting. Plastic container here. So you'll know exactly where to find us. It's in the sun, so please be on time. What is the time now?
It's 3 minutes to 12.
Tell me when you're ready. This is a panoramic view of one of the most remarkable places in the city of Jerusalem, once called the Wailing Wall, because this was the nearest point that the Jewish adherents could get to the temple site. The temple site is beyond the wall. Normally we would visit there, but today it is closed to visitors, so as not to cause any confrontation with the Islam religionists. The wall itself is before us. It is now called commonly the Western Wall. As you see, it has a various amount of stonework. The lower stonework belongs to the Roman period, and the middle section and the upper section since that time. The larger stones mainly are part of the Solomon the Great stonework. It is possible to go under the temple site, and the brethren will be able to do that with me in a few moments. Whether we shall take any pictures remains according to how congested it is. But the women folk meet to the right, and they go to the wall and they make their prayers and their intercessions. In the cracks of the wall you will find numerous written prayer requests that are pushed there by those who come to worship at the wall, particularly the Jewish adherents, because this is the furthest point of the Jewish quarter of Jerusalem that the Jews can go. Visitors, of course, can go onto the temple site normally, but it's closed today. And it may be that the structure there is unsafe. If we can get at it from another angle, we'll endeavour to do so. It is here on the Tuesday particularly that the young Israelis now come together to undertake their Bar Mitzvah. This happens on their 30th birthday, when the young Israelis make their vows to the Lord God of Israel, the Lord God of creation. That is a very peculiar ceremony and a very particular ceremony, but it's well respected. Basically it means the time to the arm, the right arm of the Ten Commandments and other subsidiary Jewish laws. This is a very busy area, and at some times this can be packed with thousands of people. At one time, the whole of this area was covered by small cottages, and I remember coming here in 1952, making my way through the cottages, and finally being confronted by that very wall. You could hardly believe that it was there until you discovered it by going through the maze of original small cottages. One or two were left for a while, but then they were also removed. It's a very heavily policed area because they're always on the watch out for any infiltrators who might want to come and deposit a bomb here. But the security forces in Israel are some of the most foremost in the world. So basically we've nothing to worry about.